Now, over the past few years, I have to say it's been a pretty exciting time, certainly for me. As we've mentioned already, I've got an interest in railways. And of course, Swindon is very closely tied to the railway pass. And it's meant over the past couple of years, we've been following very closely any stories that have involved history, local history in terms of what's happened with the railways and the workers. We've covered many, many varied stories. So as a sample, here is a sprinkling of some of those major stories that we've covered. Images of the days of steam when Britain led the world in producing vast machines powered by coal and water. On the railways, one company above any other created the idea that this wasn't just a form of transport, this was a way of life. The company was the Great Western Railway. Its base for locomotive, carriage and wagon building was here in Swindon. It was known as the GWR for short. To the men and women who worked for one of the world's largest companies, it was also known as God's wonderful railway. Today, the history of yesterday has become a fashion, as people strive to recreate their golden memories. The historic Great Western Railway locomotive is back in town as part of the opening celebrations for the new designer factory village. The engine will be on display in what will be the food court area of the complex and will be there for all to see when the doors open on March the 13th. The Great Western Designer Outlet Village is the largest retail regeneration project in the country. The site occupies over 200,000 square feet and has parking for over 2,000 cars. It's hoped the £30 million refurbishment of the former railway works will create between 800 and 1,000 new jobs. City of Truro is over 100 tonnes of Swindon history and is believed to be the first steam engine ever to beat the magical 100-mile-per-hour speed barrier. That happened not long after it was built, hauling prestigious mail trains from Plymouth to London back in 1904. The engine is certainly no stranger to the town. Although built in Swindon, the engine also spent over 20 years housed inside the Great Western Railway Museum in Farringdon Road, before being moved and restored to working order.
And it's a real privilege to be in a ceremony that is celebrating progress. It's exciting to see a community come together to move forward, to adjust to new circumstances, and then to celebrate their justifiable pride. And that, of course, is one of the main things that is happening today.
As midday drew ever closer, it was time at last to officially open the new centre. The grand ceremony got underway with the pulling of a signal lever, signalling the new phase of Swindon's shopping experience. It's a sad reflection of the Swindon long since gone, the history of the former market town turned heavy industry town with the coming of the Great Western Railway. For almost 150 years, Swindon built and maintained some of the finest railway locomotives in the world. The town's rich history has often been remembered with sadness. Changing times have brought about a shift in the emphasis of the town's economic foundation. But for the thousands of workers who toiled on behalf of the Great Western Railway, there's comfort in the knowledge that their efforts are to be remembered in a brand new Railway Heritage Centre to be built in the town. A recent ceremony marked the groundbreaking event, the official start of work to convert part of the former workshops. Invited guests, many of them former rail workers, joined civic dignitaries for the event inside 20 Shop, the building that will be used as the basis for the project. £8 million of funding has come from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Swindon Borough Council have donated a further £1 million, and the rest has been made up from BAA, MacArthur Glen and Tarmac. There's still around £250,000 to be raised by the Centre's Trust. But behind the scenes, there's enormous activity and excitement to ensure this project reaches its full potential. For the last 37 years, Swindon's railway history has been remembered at the Great Western Railway Museum in Farringdon Road. A great deal has changed in the town over those 37 years, including the railway workshops themselves closing. The changes continue as the town's railway museum prepares to close its doors for the very last time. Through the years, thousands of visitors from around the world have called in to view the locomotives and artefacts of arguably the most famous railway company ever, the Great Western Railway, known locally as God's Wonderful Railway. The museum curator for the last 15 years is Tim Bryan. Tim is himself a keen rail enthusiast and agrees it's the end of an era in the town's history.
It certainly is. I think it's quite a sad time for everybody here. I mean, I've been here at the museum well over 15 years, and most of the staff have been here the same number of years, and so it's quite sad. It's sad for the town. It's sad for individuals as well, because we've got used to this place. It's like a second home to most of us, and so yeah, we're all feeling a bit strange at the moment.
37 years ago, when the museum was created, the visitors' expectations were very different from today, and the changes have affected the design of Swindon's new railway museum, which is due to open in the spring. When the engine was put on display at the Great Western Museum, it was indeed a proud day for Swindon and the former railway workers. Almost 8 years later, and another chapter in a long history was about to close, a new one about to be written. The engine was separated from her tender. On hand to ensure all went as smoothly as possible, a team of railway volunteers. The huge locomotive, weighing in at around 80 tons, was then connected by steel ropes to the massive lorry, waiting to help her make the historic move. Well, this is the moment that the crowds have been waiting all morning for, as the mighty engine number 6000, King George V, is dragged from its resting place here at the Railway Museum in Farringdon Road. From the crowd, a constant clicking of cameras. The young and the young at heart were there to witness the occasion.
It's probably the most famous engine of all, and I think it's the one that all the public have been really waiting for, so we're pleased to see it coming out at last.
A tinge of intrepidation, perhaps?
Yes, I'll be more relieved when it's actually on solid ground at the other end of the in the new museum, but no, it's I'm sure that they're very professional, the people who are moving it, and they've done this before.
Steam celebrates the remarkable story of the people who built, operated and travelled on the Great Western Railway. Swindon's mayor is himself a former railway worker and was unable to contain his enthusiasm. The prospect of climbing up onto the footplate of one of the mighty locomotives proved no challenge. Excitement, enthusiasm and emotion from the mayor of Swindon. One of the more unusual attractions is the massive wall of names. Local people have been invited to help remember their friends and family by buying a plaque displaying their name. It's helped raise funds for the museum and instantly proved to be a focus for those remembering the former railway workers.
hundreds of years of railway history coming to a close in 1986. And of course, it is fair to say that with the demise of the railway industry in that year, it prompted, well, regrowth and regeneration in Swindon, and that's really what Swindon's Local Channel and all its predecessors have been about, covering that.
It has, actually. It's interesting looking back as we've been doing, it really does put it in perspective. I remember the early stories when we were going along each week to talk to Danny Lee and the Works Committee about what would happen to the workers once they were made redundant. But of course we've moved on since then. Not only the workers gone, but the works itself has gone, the magnificent A-shop has disappeared. But of course on the plus side, we've seen all this regeneration that's been going on, the museum now, so it really has gone almost full circle, I guess.
And of course part of that regeneration is the Great Western Designer Outlet Village, which of course has been home to the city of Truro. But I know there's a funny story associated with that engine.
There is a very funny story, and that is, I think it was back in 1984. It was probably the first railway story that I covered. Myself and a colleague who is here this evening, Andy Stewart, we were very, very young. I think we were about 17 or 18. Neither of us could drive at the time. The city of Truro was being taken out of this museum at midnight. We ended up taking all the camera equipment and lights, pushing it there in a shopping trolley. That's how committed we were. We did this in the middle of the night. I have to say, it's the most outrageous story when I say it now. It just sounds unbelievable. We arrived in a shopping trolley. We did this shoot in the middle of the night. And the strange thing is, we pushed all the kit home afterwards at 4 o'clock in the morning in the same shopping trolley. I mean, we looked like we were a couple of Ram Raiders. I mean, we must have been the first ones.